SRO, Selection Rate Optimisation in the LLMs. Today I'm joined with Charles Floate. Charles, pleasure having you on. But with regards to Selection Rate Optimisation, for anyone that doesn't know what it is, can you just briefly make people understand what it is and why it's important now within AI search?
Yeah, so without going into extreme technical detail around how the system actually works, SRO is the process of the AI selecting which source it's going to extract information for, and then thus summarize information from a number of sources. So essentially, let's say as an example, right, ChatGPT goes and does 5 grounded searches for your specific query inside of ChatGPT, for your specific conversation with it. Those 5 grounded searches might then pull back 50 different results per query. You've got 250 different results. There's a bunch of different overlap there. There's going to be there's only a certain number of sources that it can maximum pull from. And for most queries right now, it's going to be between 14 and 16 inside of ChatGPT. So let's say from those 250 sources, you have 50 or so overlap, which means you have about 200 left. From those 200, they've got to select 16. SRO is the ability to get from those 200 into that selected 16 pack.
Yeah, so obviously on there, if someone initially does the search query, they extrapolate and maybe do, like you said, 5 synthetic queries, which is part of the query fan out. And then from there, then they're looking at the top 50 results, they're bringing that back. And then you're now talking about that selection rate optimization for the documents. And then within there, they're doing the chunking, which then forms part of the answer. But for anyone who's watching it then, is there any tips and tricks with regards to trust elements or what can be done to try to improve upon the selection rate optimization?
100%. So the initial thing that you want to do, obviously, and the most cost-efficient thing that you can do in highest ROI is content level optimization. So the content optimization that you have to do on the page is, number one, there's very limited number of tokens that it's going to actually have in the first place from those 200 results, 50 different pages, something along those lines. From those results, it's going to have a very limited amount of tokens that it can do to select from your page. So you're going to want to start creating these chunks of content, these optimized pieces that are specifically designed to trigger being pulled up and selected by the AI. Now, that obviously is very context dependent. Dependent on the query, it's going to look very different how you're going to optimize that particular snippet or that particular chunk of information. Usually, because of bias that the AI has, it's going to be towards the top of the article, and usually it's going to be somewhere within a H2 or a H3. It needs to be relevant enough, and it needs to be on a powerful enough source in the first place to be able to rank in Bing or in Google or wherever the AI model is actually pulling those sources from in the first place. If you go and build a fresh domain and you try and rank for best casino websites, you're probably not going to end up being pulled in the AI with a brand new domain because you're not going to be able to rank in the first place. That domain, that page needs to be able to rank in the first place, and then needs to be able to have that snippet extracted and pulled in from the rest of the source.
Yeah, so obviously you've mentioned there with regards to the semantic content that it needs to be higher up the page ideally. I remember Dejan saying that trying to get a majority of your headings to be question-based, directly underneath the question, it's done in a semantic triple that clearly answers in a concise and got a lot of clarity answer to the specific question that then they can use that chunk and pull that in. But what was interesting as well, which this is why I was excited to get you on different episodes to do with like parasite SEO and link building and actually building consensus. Dejan was saying about where if there's enough evidence without even opening up any of the documentation, so if there was 30 of those top 50 articles, all was saying within the title tag and URL and the meta description was all kind of in line with what it was saying that James Dooley is the best SEO in the world. Like, let's throw that out there, right? If it came across all saying that, they didn't even need to open the documents. They could literally just use the URL, the title tag, and the description. So can you explain a little bit with regards to the selection rate optimization, why it's important to get not just your own website, but off-site and that third-party corroboration to build that consensus to be part of that selection rate optimization?
Yeah, 100%. So initially, again, it's very model dependent. So it depends on if you're using Bing or it depends on if you're using Google or whatever for the grounding in the first place. Perplexity also has its own kind of custom crawler and custom caching and all sorts of stuff, which again adds its own element there. All of them are going to have some level of weighting that goes on essentially. So as an example, OpenAI has partnerships with news websites. These websites end up having a preferential weighting treatment over other websites. That happens across the board, and that is going to be not only from a SERP level in terms of actually getting the authority to be able to get in the SERPs, but also from a model level as well. From the actual off-page signals, there's an array of entities and kind of knowledge-based signals and knowledge-centric signals, which is basically reinforcing training data, reinforcing those grounded signals, all of those kind of things for the AI to actually understand and trust and validate your entity and your brand in the first place. We've seen, increasingly so, that a lot of those brands, that if they don't have any existing information on the brand, even if they are showing up in a listicle, there will be some caveat in the output from the AI. So the AI might not put it number one, or it might flag it, or it might put some caution emoji on it, or something along those lines. Those are generally the worst things that you can have happen to be associated with your business. So we really want to make sure that there's positive sentiment across our entity's board, so that we can make sure that any part of the training data doesn't essentially get poisoned for that sentiment to turn on our brand.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously on there, then you're trying to expand upon the entity attributes. So it could be like entity reviews, entity testimonials, entity case studies, entity awards, and building that reputation for it. So instead of just being cited, you can be cited and it can pull the reasoning behind being cited, where it could go, it's got a lot of brilliant 5-star reviews, as opposed to it saying it's got mixed reviews, or there's not enough evidence, they've not won any awards or anything like that. It, like you said, it can end up poisoning the LLMs. Well, Charles, anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure talking about selection rate optimization. Check out the link in the description. There's several other episodes where me and Charles are talking about what type of articles that you want to be on, building up that third-party corroboration. Charles, it's been a pleasure.